So just walking around this God's Hill little tiny village. It's a beautiful village, centuries old, but it's crazy with the traffic. There's hardly any sort of pedestrian walkways, and you've really got to watch yourself, especially families with children walking around. You know, cars are whipping around those corners, coming at your left, right and centre, so you've got to have your wits about you, especially if you're out with a camera, you know, taking pictures. I love photography. I just love taking old cameras and getting pictures with them. But shooting this trip, I'd never shot one before, and I'd never thought about getting one before either. But I must admit, I'm really enjoying using this camera. This is the Olympus Trip 35 camera that I've been playing with recently, and it's forced me to shoot in a certain way that I can adapt to many of my other favourite street photography cameras, such as this, and this. And this isn't my Olympus Trip. This has been lent to me to show you guys on the channel by Tristan Colgate-McFarlane. He's a patron of the YouTube channel. So Tristan, if you're watching, mate, thank you very much. Once I've finished playing with this, I'll get it back to you, hopefully safe and sound. In a moment, I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to take a trip to a popular tourist area called God's Hill. And I'm going to take some photographs of the streets in motion with Kodak TX400. But before I do, I'll give you a quick overview of the Olympus Trip and a little bit about its history, the stuff that I've swatted up. So the Olympus Trip was introduced in 1967. At the time, the already popular Olympus Pen F half-frame camera, which was designed by Yoshihisa Matei, I'm sorry if I've butchered that name, and it was an instant success. The same guy also designed the legendary OM1, OM2, OM3 and the Olympus XA as well. And it was called the Trip as it was made for families and travellers to have an easy use, no fuss 35mm film camera whilst they were on their trip. It's a fully automatic camera that has two shutter speeds, 1/40th of a second and 1/200th of a second. So if you put the camera in A or auto mode, it will select the shutter and the aperture for you. And if the scene is too dark for the exposure, the camera won't fire. You'll get this little red window that pops up in the viewfinder alerting you that it's too dark. It has the simple, easy to use focusing symbols, and underneath the lens you have got a distance scale telling you exactly where those symbols lie. It's got an ASA selector or ISO selector which ranges from 25 ISO to 400 ISO, which is great if you want to be pushing or pulling your film or shooting backlit scenes and you need a bit of extra exposure. And for the lens, Olympus used a super sharp 40mm f2.8 Zuiko lens, and it's got 4 elements in 3 groups, and that's what the D stands for in D.Zuiko. And the lens has a selenium metering cell around it, so this camera doesn't need to fire on any batteries, which was another bonus for anyone shooting back in the day. And that's as simple as this camera gets. You do have the option to shoot fully manual by coming off of the auto and selecting your own aperture. But here's the catch: when you do that, the camera will only shoot at 1/40th of a second, which is where, for me, things did get interesting. Often when I shoot street photography, I like to shoot sort of 1/125th of a second, but if I can go to 2/50th or 500th of a second so I can freeze the motion on the streets. However, when I took this camera out the other day, I thought I'd see how I'd get on shooting a whole roll at 1/40th of a second, and I actually liked it. I do sometimes slow the shutter down anyway for some street motion when I'm doing my street photography, but not every frame. And the trip reminded me that taking photographs of life outdoors at a speed of 1/40th of a second brings some soul and energy into me photographs, something that I should do more often. But apparently there is a workaround if you still want to shoot your own apertures with this camera and get 1/200th of a second. There is a workaround which involves holding the button halfway down, covering the lens cell and then changing the aperture, la da 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 da. I was reading up about that and I thought, you know what a faff that is. What's the point? I'd rather just let the camera either do its thing in auto mode or select my own aperture and just see what happens with all my photographs at 1/40th of a second, as long as I can just keep the camera straight when I'm taking my pictures. So from 1967 to 1984, this camera sold over 10 million units worldwide, and it hardly changed its face. It didn't really change at all over those times. So if you've got an Olympus Trip that maxes out to 200 ISO, the chances are yours was from 1967 to 1972, because in 1972 Olympus increased the maximum ISO range to 400. Films were getting faster, so Olympus had to keep up. And I think it was in 1978, they changed the little silver button at the top and they put a black plastic button on there instead. So if you've got an Olympus Trip with a black plastic button, chances are it's from 1978 to 1984. If it's a silver button, it's from 1967 to 1978. So with all that out of the way, let's take the Olympus Trip and a roll of Kodak TX400 down to this village called God's Hill. It's a touristy village. There should be quite a lot of people around to get some photographs. I'll try and blend in and get some 1/40th of a second street photographs, and I'll also shoot it in auto as well, and I'll show you the difference between auto and shooting this camera manually as well. I'm not going to do all that faffing about covering this. I can't be asked with all that, to be honest with you. I'll let someone else try that. Let's get out and see what we can get. So most of my photos I'm shooting from chest height and hoping that I can point the lens in the right area for framing, and as you can see it's a bit hit and miss. I do prefer to get closer to my subject with a wider lens, which almost guarantees a good frame with a bit of cropping. But this is just a bit of fun time with me and this little classic point and shoot, and to see how comfortable I can get with such a constant slow speed on the street. It's a strange thread size as well if you want to use filters, 43.5mm thread, and Tristan's cleverly put a filter to 49, a thread to 49mm, so you can use 49mm filters on this camera. And of course, because the selenium cell's sitting behind the filter, it's going to compensate in auto mode for any adjustments it needs to make. So what I've done, I'm shooting a 400 speed film. It's a sunny day. It's 1/40th of a second, so I'm shooting at f/22. And ideally, I should have really put a 100 speed film inside. And I know you guys are going, why didn't you? Well, I haven't got any. Basically, I've run out, so I'm stuck with a 400. But that's no problem, because in a moment I'm going to switch over to the auto mode. So all the photographs I've been taking, I've been shooting at f/22, 1/40th of a second. And I'm just I quite enjoyed what I saw the other day, what I got from this camera the other day, 1/40th on the streets. It gave I felt as though it just gave my pictures a bit of soul, a bit of heart, you know, with moving motion, people walking, there's a bit of motion going on. I thought it looked quite nice, so I'll be interested to see how these come out as well. I'm going to switch over in a moment to fully auto mode, so that means the camera is going to choose 1/200th of a second, and it will do its own aperture, so God knows what that will be. I should imagine it's 16-22 because I've put 400 ASA on the camera, so it knows what film's inside. So let's see if it can do a good job with that. I'll more than likely underdevelop the film when I get back as well. I'll more than likely underdevelop that just so my other photographs that I took in manual mode gives them a bit of a chance, because more than likely they'll be overexposed. I should really be shooting sort of maybe in this bright conditions, maybe 1/400th, maybe 1/500th, and f/16, f/11s. So we'll see what happens when we get back, but it's just to test it and see what happens. So I'm enjoying my time at the moment, just walking around this little tiny village, taking some photographs of people, trying to be indiscreet, you know, not getting in people's faces. And yeah, I'm going to turn it over to auto mode now. I've shot 12 shots, so I'm going to go to auto mode. And there you go. Focusing wise, I was going between 3 meters and infinite, so if I was shooting sort of, you know, escapey kind of stuff, getting everything in, I was choosing the little tiny mountains, infinite, and if I was getting a bit closer to people, I'd just select 3 meters and wait for them to sort of fall in that 3 meter range. Sometimes I was a bit closer, but at f/22 it should still be quite sharp. Amazing lens on these cameras as well. Let's go and do some more. Let's shoot this in fully auto mode now and see what the camera can do. That's it, I've done all 24 shots on the film, so I'm going to go back and develop. I'll be interested to see how the 1/40th of seconds come out, and I'll also be interested to see how this camera did in fully auto mode. Like I said, I wasn't going to fiddle about trying to do that faffy thing. There's no point. Just get these cameras and just shoot the shit out of it and enjoy it. That's pretty much where I am with it. There's another thing about this camera I've got to mention. If you look through the viewfinder, a little tiny window at the bottom of the viewfinder which enables you to see your focusing. So if you're looking through, you can see the focusing symbols through the viewfinder. I can't remember, there's a name for that. I can't remember what it is. Got a memory like a sieve. Let's go home and develop this film. It's too hot out here today. So I'm back home ready to develop the film, and I'm going to be using 510 PYRO. I thought, you know what, I'll semi-stand this because I'm not quite sure how I was shooting that. So this is my tap water. I'll just show you something, guys. In this hot weather at the moment, our tap water is coming out at about 24 degrees, so I need to bring that down. I use a sandwich bag and an ice block, what they call it, cooling pack. And it's clean because it lives inside this sandwich bag. And that will bring that water down nicely for me to develop my film at 20 degrees. And while that's coming down, we'll rewind the film back, press a little button at the back there, releases the mechanism in there, and I can just start rewinding back. And there's my film. Ready to go inside this tank. So my water's all good at 20 degrees. So I'm just going to go up to 400. ml and then stick 4 millilitres of the PYRO. A little bit more than I need for 35 ml, but that should be enough to cover the whole film while it's standing. If you do use this stuff, try and use gloves. I can't find mine, but I won't get it on my fingers. There you go. Anyway, so that's the PYRO done. Let's give it a mix. And I'm using the PYRO because it's got the staining properties in it, so that should help with any highlights if I've blown any out. Let's see what happens anyway. And then we'll give that a minute of inversions to start with. And then I'll just let it stand. And then after 10 minutes, I'll give it one more inversion. And that should be the stand developing done. And these are the negs after developing in 510 PYRO stand development. It's done a really good job, bearing in mind that I knew they would be overexposed. It was a very bright day. I had 1/200th of a second, 1/40th of a second on a 400 speed film. And these I was shooting at f/22. These was in auto mode, where the camera was more than likely shooting 1/200th and probably between f/16 and f/22, I would say. But that's the difference between the two speeds. But whichever way you look at it, they're overexposed, and I knew that. So maybe a neutral density filter over that lens. I haven't got one for that size, but if you've got one for the Olympus Trip and you want to go out and shoot it out on a bright sunny day with a 400 film, that would probably do you. Otherwise, just shoot a 100 speed film. Like I said, I haven't got any 100 speed films in my fridge when I went, so I had to use a 400. But yeah, they've come out well, easily printable. As you can see on the negs, quite contrasty, punchy looking photograph. So what a fun little camera to shoot. Although I was shooting at 1/40th of a second, really that's supposed to be for flash photography. If you want to put a flash on the camera and select your aperture, the flash is going to fire, so you're not going to get sort of shaky photographs. But I found it really good on the street, doing the street photography. I like that little bit of motion in some of my photographs. So, and although it does lead to overexposed photographs on a bright sunny day, as I was shooting with a 400 speed film, to be honest with you, I'd be more inclined to put a 400 speed film in this camera and shoot it on a sort of, you know, light overcast day and get nice results and still get that motion that I like when I'm shooting street photography. But either way, even shooting it in auto mode, it did a really good job. Like I say, I could have put an ND filter on the front of it just to bring that exposure down a little bit, but you know, it's no big deal. I can still print these photographs. It's not a problem, better than being underexposed, right? But what a great little camera to shoot, and it's a little conversation stopper as well. A few people stopped me along the way and was asking me about the camera, saying their grandmother had one or their mum had one or whatever, your dad had one, they remember it being in the family. So it's a little conversation stopper. But moreover, for sort of street photography, these little cameras, especially ones like this with this lens and the other Nikon L35 that I showed recently, those little cameras are so discreet when you're out on the street. You know, I don't like to sort of shoot like this when I'm, you know, be really obvious. I just like to sort of hold it here and get a few shots in. So with this lens being, what, 40mm lens, it's a little bit wider obviously than 50mm, but I prefer to shoot wider lenses so I can get a little bit closer and still click the shutter. That way I can crop a little bit and adjust if I need to. At least I get the whole frame in. But you know, it's neither here nor there. Great little camera to shoot. And thanks very much to Tristan for lending it to me to shoot on the channel. I'm going to shoot a few more rolls through it yet, Tristan, before I send it back to you. I will look after it, I promise, and hopefully it comes back in just as good condition as you sent it to me. But if you're interested in one of these cameras, have a look online. You can buy them quite cheap. I've seen them for sort of £35–40, but they do look a bit battered, a bit manky. I don't know if they're any good when they're looking like that, but you can find some really clean ones for sort of up to near £100, and I would imagine that they're the sort of ones to go for. At least you know that it's in good condition, it hasn't been mistreated, and it probably works. But just ask the right questions to the seller. You know, does it work? Any scratches? Any fungus on the lens? All the usual stuff. Are the light seals any good? But light seals are only cheap to replace anyway. That's neither here nor there really. But you just want to make sure that the camera works and it's in decent condition. And if it is, it will last you a long time. You can even get them serviced, but I'm not sure how much the servicing is. But anyway, guys, let us know in the comments if you've got a Trip, if you use it, what do you use it for? How long has it been with you? Some people have probably been in their families for, you know, decades. But what a fantastic, fascinating little camera. And thanks, Tristan, for sending it to me. I've never shot one before, and I've enjoyed my experience with it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and I'll catch you next time.